Thank you so much, Guldborg, the rare analyst toss, as I like to say it. Yeah. But welcome to our first series of the day. It is going to be Vitality versus Koi, and honestly, kind of, how we got here was very, we expected the results, but we didn't expect the journey, shall we say. Koi looking very strong in their series yesterday, and Vitality having a small little one or two upset, or bump, shall we say, in that road.
Yeah, I definitely think when you look at Koi, I think Larssen had a fantastic game in the Silas, and I'm excited to see if he can try and do it once more.
We shall not waste any more time, Berlin. We are jumping straight into picks and bans. It was Vitality coming as the higher seed, so they chose the blue side for this first game. Of course, in the best of three, loser of the games just end up choosing sides until one team wins two. That's how best of three works. I did my homework. Anyway, coming into this one here, we see the Caitlyn, the Lucian, and the Azir. So a lot of Azir we've seen actually over the weekend, of that very much kind of that scaling pick that just does well, that do, basically team fight at the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, I think the big one though is that we're seeing a lot of those big junglers left open, like the Sejuani, like the Maokai, and Bo immediately going to get his hands on towards the Sejuani. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Malrang try and respond with something like the Maokai, but I think solidifying your bot lane probably going to be your best bet here first. Try and get comp onto something that's a little bit more comfortable, like the Varus, like the Zeri that we've seen starting to creep through more and more as those big picks in the meta.
Very big picks. And of course, with the Caitlyn Lucian ban, as you mentioned, the priority does end up kind of going towards it. The Varus is still very much there, but I've seen a little bit of a lean away from those particular champions, as you mentioned. But now, knowing that you're going into the Sejuani, you've got option, the Maokai maybe, and something that we've actually seen a lot of people, talking about, specifically Yamato on Twitter, is this kind of like, the Trundle. The Trundle could be exceptionally powerful in this to try and punish something like that big tanky Sejuani.
Yeah, well, looks like instead, though, it will be the Vi, and I think this is kind of anticipating that we might get an Ezreal coming through for Neon in the spot side. I think you're able to set up, but it's actually going to be the Sivir immediately taken. So looking more so to kind of go towards that late game. You got good push in that bot side, and this does open up Kaiser, which was kind of the big point I was talking about with the Ezreal, was getting Kaiser out on the map has been so good for Vitality. Focusing on that mid lane with Bo around Perkz, I feel like we're going to see something very similar here.
And I like this as well, because you have the Sivir, works very well with the Lulu. The Lulu has kind of seen a bit more priority here in the LEC over something like the Yuumi that we've seen kind of paired up more historically with the Zeri, and it has going to kind of force, the hand of Koi.
And that's the big one, right? You kind of traditionally see the Lulu paired with the Zeri in this scenario, but when you take away that Lulu, now with Yuumi not being as prevalent in the meta, you can still fall back to it, but Trymbi's going to go back to his old style, which is going towards the Soraka. So I like this from Vitality. You can kind of see them already putting Koi into a bit of an odd spot, taking that Lulu away.
Yeah, and again, something Trymbi has been played in multiple metas now at this point, last year and even, of course, this weekend. So we'll see what they end up kind of going for. And the solo laners are going all the way down to the end. Now, we saw it yesterday, and we kind of, wanted to bring it up a little bit, but like looking at the mid lane is going to be huge here for Perkz versus Larssen. Larssen was a monster yesterday, specifically on that Silas as well. So wouldn't be surprised to see a couple more bans towards him.
And I think the big one is actually going to be a case of trying to enable Larssen banning out topside, because one of the big things that I noticed with Koi was, strong pushing bot lanes and let their bot lane do their thing. You have something like the Gnar for Szygenda in the top lane where he has control, and it made it very easy for Malrang to focus on this mid lane. So I like the Vitality are getting rid of the Gnar to make sure that Szygenda doesn't have that easy pushing lane, and it means that Malrang can't hard focus this mid lane matchup, where I assume they'll leave counter pick for Larssen.
There's the actually Silas banned player by Koi, so they're kind of saying to themselves, look, we believe Perkz can do just as good on the pick as Larssen can, so we do not want to leave that one up. Give him the opportunities like the to use the ultimates like the Vi, which we've seen so powerful in something like a Silas has so much innate CC in his own kit. But you got the final pick to kind of come out here. With the Jax band, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see a K'Sante, but wait to see what Team Vitality want to prioritize.
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of having Photon in the squad is he has been incredibly flexible, right? You look at things like the Gragas, he's brought out the K'Sante, I mean, Jax, Gwen, like he's had so many different styles of picks that he's able to bring into that top side, so kind of able to do a whole bunch there. And I do think when you're looking at like Silas taking off the board, Azir taking off the board, I am curious if we end up getting something like an Akali or something like that for Perkz. Hasn't picked it up yet, but definitely something that we know he has in his wheelhouse. wheelhouse.
Well, Larssen's going to get counterpicked just like you said, so they are going to pick the Cassante. Let's be real, as blind picks goes, with the Jax being banned away, pretty damn safe. You're going to have to look for something a little bit more priority focused, and the Gwen does in fact give you that, and especially when we see a lot of priority in that armor sense. You've got yourself some decent damage now profile here for the Team Vitality.
Yeah, I love these last two picks from Vitality. I think Photon has been absolutely incredible when he is able to get his hands on these carry picks and has been able to be the main proponent for Vitality when they're on these massive comebacks, having things like the Gwen, the Jax to try and do that. And now you open up Perkz as well to get his hands on a lane bully on this Jayce, making things uncomfortable for Larssen, regardless of the fact that he has the counter pick. And you can see he's trying to figure it out. Will just take the Orianna, not going to be the best in lane, but something that does incredibly well when you're looking at Malrang, who wants to go in and start these fights in the VoD.
The last pick that comes in is the Orianna. Going to be pretty much team fight galore coming out here from Koi. They've got themselves such a good front to back. You're able to keep the Zeri and the Orianna healthy. You've decent engage with the Cassante and the Vi. And it does look like these two teams just kind of want to go at each other, get their items going, and really try and fight for these advantages. Yeah,
I think the big problem for Koi, though, is Vitality is a team that really likes to go for these early skirmishes, try and get in your face, Bo in particular. And I think when you look at, like, okay, Perkz should have good control over mid, works reasonably well with the Sejuani as well, because he can provide that melee style that the Sejuani is able to bounce off of. And as well, you should have good push in the bot lane with this Lulu and Sivir. So I think Koi going to have their work cut out. I think they've looked best when they control the pace of the game. I don't think they get to in this one.
The comps are locked. Again, this is Koi versus Vitality, winner of this best of 3. Gets himself into the semi-finals. Win 2 and you're in. That's kind of how big this is. We're only technically in week 4 of the season, but you're already starting to see really impactful changes with this format, and does mean that you have to put everything on the table. You can't leave anything up to chance. And now for Vitality coming into this as the #1 seed, you have the expectations, but Koi have been kind of turning a new leaf, bringing themselves back to what we expected to see from them after 2022.
And I think a huge part of that has been Larssen. I think Larssen had a fantastic time in his series this weekend, has honestly stepped up massively. We'll have to see if he can do it once more.
There we are.
Beautiful wall. Really nice wall.
I was going to say, it was like the observers were just like, man, that's well constructed.
That's some high quality architecture.
Absolutely.
Right there.
You can't just have to sit down and appreciate the graphics from League of Legends sometimes. You know, take a moment here as not sure where we're going to be seeing the first bit of action, but we do have pretty much a standard fan out. Make sure you don't lose any vision. Make sure if you know someone's going a bit more aggressive, you can cover it yourselves. It's pretty basic, pretty standard considering the level 1s, to be perfectly honest, from either side, not that strong.
Yeah, I think it's more so for both sides. Well, specifically for Vitality, is about making sure you can set up for these pushing lanes. Neon Kaiser should be in a good spot. Perkz should be in a great spot as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Bo trying to land his pathing so he ends up on this bottom side of the map, so he can actually look to try and go for invades off of Perkz having pressure mid. Same when you look towards Kaiser and Neon on this bot side. And it's been something Bo has been good at, but has also cost him at times where he can go that little over aggressive.
First word, I heard a clap. It's too early for that. Come on now. It's not that slow of a game just yet. We don't know. We'll come back into this one here, and again, we're going to see pretty much standard starts from the junglers. We see them on both sides of their red, so going to be on pretty much opposite sides of the map where they want to make that priority. And the thing with the Vi is, and for Malrang specifically, is that it has been more prevalent to see the Vi get a little bit aggressive. But like you said, Bo has been someone to get in your face and look for those early advantages, specifically around that bottom mid lane.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what we're going to see again. He went for a lot of these early level 2 ganks. We heard Rekkles talk about it on the desk. Like, he's been very, very proactive in helping his lane in these early stages. But I want to see exactly what he can try and get up to here, as he will be making his way onto the top side. Szygenda did fake placing a ward into the top side jungle, so I think Bo will imagine that he's going to be spot on vision as he makes his way up to that top end. But we'll have to see exactly how he tries to respond.
I was going to say, neither jungler really spotted on anything right now, so this is kind of unknown territory. We haven't seen any aggressive wards being put down. The Faker ward on the Raptors, as we know and all love, but now Bo doing exactly like we talked about, putting himself in a position mid, but looks like Koi are poised and ready to make this one work. They will try and get the knock back. but he's already been answered by Malrang, who's there a little bit. Might see a flash burn. Yes, with that red buff ticking, you cannot risk giving over that first blood so early.
I mean, great sidestep from Larssen. I think he's been absolutely fantastic over the course of this weekend, and this is definitely the matchup that we wanted to try and highlight between Larssen and Perkz. These two have been so incredibly strong for their respective squads, and I mean, Larssen stepping up massively, as you can see, doing phenomenal stuff when it comes towards his Silas. Now looking to see if he can be the late game carry on this control mage, the Orianna. Whereas we look across at Perkz, so much of Vitality has been about this mid jungle. How can they work in tandem to look for invades, look for skirmishes when it comes to river? And I mean, already you can see still Bo hanging around that mid lane in case Larssen goes for anything aggressive.
Mid lane, obviously the first point of action there. Bo losing his flash as jungler's going to trade off the scuttles at the end. I will say, you're actually getting a fair bit of harassment here down the bot side. The Soraka doing exceptionally well in these early stages just to kind of keep the Sivir underneath her tower. And it does end up kind of being part and parcel for the lane matchup you've given yourself. Sivir does need a couple of levels before her wave clear really comes to fruition. Yeah,
I think the early ignite there from Kaiser as well, just to try and get some damage down, trying to see if they can stop the relentless harass from Comp and Trymbi. But I mean, thus far, Comp doing a really good job of just being willing to trade his health bar to get damage onto Neon, and that's what's making such a big difference in that bot side. So really nice job from Comp and Trymbi, because I think Comp and Trymbi this split haven't had that big impact that we came to expect from them. So now trying to prove it against Neon and Kaiser in that bot side.
Absolutely. Well, good trade there for Photon on the top side. Means that he's able to kind of get that wave crash just a little bit better than Szygenda as we come back in here. But we are going to see Malrang taking away some Krugs. He has been spotted on Vision. This is still risky though, because it's a ghost on Neon, not a heal, not a cleanse, nothing that would be able to try and stop that CC. But Malrang recognizes that maybe he's not in the best positions and has to back himself away.
Yeah, there was a ward from Koi on towards the Wolves on top side, so I think they were well aware that chances are Bo's on this bottom half of the map, so they will back away. But again, I mean, great ward coverage from Koi, and I think this is what teams have come to discover about playing against Vitality is if you can spot out Bo, if you can stop him from interacting the map, things become a hell of a lot easier. And for Koi, they are a team that doesn't really want to take a huge amount of skirmishes in the early stages of the game. They want to try and play for a later portion of the game where they can overload one side of the map, look for quick picks, not really go towards big team fights, which is something that they were renowned for last split, but are starting to move away from this year.
Coming into this as well, you got to remember, Vitality and Koi played each other literally last week. They were the final few kind of round robins of the best of ones. So, and Koi came out on top of that, and it really did feel like Koi were totally in control that entire game. They picked up early dragons, they were getting themselves really nice set of plays, and it felt like Vitality were kind of scrambling for an answer. So curious to see what Vitality will have now to answer that particular setup. But for the moment, it's all been nice, easy breezy. Malrang gets himself a dragon. So just as we were talking about a little bit earlier there, they are going to start that stack nice and early.
Yeah, this is kind of like not too unusual for a Vitality game, though. They don't tend to go towards early dragons. They're way more happy to just kind of go, okay, what can we try and trade for? I wouldn't be surprised to see them give it up 2, maybe even 3 of these dragons in the early stages and kind of just let themselves get to a point where Perkz is sitting at 2 items, then you can actually start to try and make some plays around him. Even Neon, now with the changes, the fact that he can go for the IE second means that he's quite strong as well. And just trying to see if they can bully Comp on this bot side a little bit, but Comp's winning that.
Comp is coming out a little bit on top as we see Larssen now getting jumped on here by the Jayce. He's going to be fairly safe, you would imagine, coming into this top side. Both the mid laners picking up tiers, trying to get them stacked up as much as they can. But now level 6s are starting to be hit. We're starting to see the solo laners get to that point where they might actually be able to make a play, but excusing the mid laner and the top, you're looking at bot lane right now, and Koi have kind of just kept this Sivir and Lulu right underneath their tower, and they're picking up plates.
I mean, the big one is the fact that Malrang has just sat around this bot side. You can even see it here, still hovering in mid, but keeping on the bottom side, replacing those wards, allowing Comp and Trymbi to just keep up this onslaught. And I mean, it's doing really well. They already have 3 of these plates now gone off this push, and if you're able to add the Rift Herald in a minute's time, immediately take bot tower, Koi are going to be in such a good spot for their bot lane.
It's just easy setup here right now. They know with decent vision setup, as you mentioned, that they're not really under any real threat. They have Malrang hovering towards that bot side, so they would have support should they need it fairly quickly. So good. Perkz using very effective use of the poke here, the accelerated shock blast, to try and bully out Larssen from this mid lane. Does get the wave crashed. Should be able to get a reset of himself. So slow, methodical start here from both these sides. We can see them kind of leaning towards their own powers in these early stages, knowing they didn't want to overforce something.
And I think this is where we're going to actually see Vitality start to force things, though, because Perkz off of reset with this Serrated Dirk should be able to just fairly handily push in that wave, and then you can start to move up towards this top side, look to make plays around Photon, because when your bot lane is going this disastrously, you need to find success elsewhere.
No, you will get the ultimate out of comp, I believe, as he does end up losing it there. So tried to go for a little bit of an extra engage, wasn't really able to make it stick, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. So again, we're starting to see more and more pressure in this bot side, and they're going to have to take a little bit of an unfortunate reset where the wave isn't really in the exact position you would like it. So advantage is 20 CS, and it's going to get a bit bigger as well. So with Bo hitting level 6, Vitality going to say, look, bot lane's kind of a lost cause. We're going to focus our efforts towards that top side.
But look at where you're looking at Malrang going. He's not even moving down or up towards the top side. He's immediately running down towards this bot lane. They just want to make sure that they can actually try and get this last tower, potentially look for a dive. And that's where you're seeing Neon has to back away. He knows he's too low to stick around. So Koi, regardless of Riptide or not, will just be able to take this bot lane turret.
And honestly, it feels like Koi have been able to get this without any external help. This wasn't a big dive that came in. This wasn't the Vi making, a Sivir, feel very, weak in the first few lanes. So that's going to be all bot lane from the side of Koi. But now top side, this Cassante is in a lot of trouble here. He does not have flash. He does use his ghost, so he's going to try and maybe get away from this one here. But with the Lulu there, the first blood comes in. Kaiser picks that one up with the Ignite. And that is a nice little move there from Vitality to try and answer for that bot lane pressure.
Yeah, they should be able to get another plate, but Neon's in no man's land.
He really is. He has the ghost popping, and he's going to try and get himself away maybe with the flash, but I think he knows he's dead to rights regardless of what happens. So he keeps that summoner. That's a trade of 1-for-1, but most importantly, Koi got the tower as well.
I mean, Vitality should get the tower off this charge too, so at least it will be tower for tower, but I think this is, yeah, Trymbi's a bit over.
I don't think you want to be here, man. He's going to try and keep himself alive as much as he can. He trades back one kill because the tower just stacked up. Didn't even lose his flash, and Trymbi styling on Bo on the top side.
I mean, that was sick from Trymbi. Imagine to get the kill. I thought he'd gone that bit too far, but the healing coming out from the Q was just right there, and the heal summoner spell as well, catching out Vitality. So they will get the top tower, but that's an extra kill going across towards Koi now. It's just a case of how well can they keep this train rolling.
We can have a look at the replay here and again. And look, there's not a lot a flashless Cassante can do here, but I will say Vitality did have to commit quite a bit of resources there, and as we saw in the replay after this, the Vi takes full advantage of knowing where everyone is.
Yeah, I mean, nice job there from Vitality to juggle the aggro on that top side with Kaiser managing to take the last of, but Neon just stuck around too long, especially when you know that you've got the problems going for Koi on the top side. You just need to back away, make sure you're not causing a problem on the opposite side of the map, and Malrang, good response to immediately move down there once he spotted Neon was overextended.
Come back in, it's a dead even game in terms of gold. 1 kill to 2 in favor of Koi. They've got a dragon, the next one spawning in a couple of seconds, but Vitality look like they're a little bit more positioned to try and take this fight.
Yeah, I don't think Vitality want to take this fight though. Look at Comp, already has his mythic completed. He's 2.3k gold ahead. Malrang can easily move in here, and the person that has the response goal for Vitality is sitting on that top side. Now, it does have TP to join, but I think it might be a little too late, so this is kind of risky from Koi. I don't know.
Vitality looking, they want to try and make this work. They have priority in mid, and they've got Perkz sitting there with a Caulfield's Warhammer. Now Neon a lot of trouble. He's forced to flash away from the shock wave, but he gets caught immediately afterwards. They do get the wild growth though to knock up Malrang, who flashes away from the glacial prison. Now Larssen, but not a huge amount of mana, but having that blue buff means he should be able to top himself up fairly nicely. They are trying to see if they can make this one work, but Vitality in full retreat. They're saying, look, we know we're 4v4, and we know that we've used an awful lot of our summoners, so we're just going to have to back away.
A lot of those ultimates gone as well. Nothing left for Vitality that's on this half of the map, so Larssen will need to back away, but Koi should be able to get this dragon unless Bo can get the steal.
He's looking for it right now. They're trying to just kind of make them think twice about going for this. Malrang gets polymorphed, as we can see Comp going in. Now you've got Larssen getting a little bit more mana down, and some supportal combat sees the Lulu fall. The Soraka, again, Vitality tried to hard force it, but like you said, it just didn't feel like it was ever going to work.
I mean, you just don't have damage right now. Yes, Perkz can provide some, but Neon is super far behind, and as soon as Koi were able to kind of back it up, play it nice and slow, wait for the rest of their comp to catch up, but then they're able to finish that one out. Comp, though, does take a decent amount of damage, but should be able to just back away from this. That's a second dragon now to Koi, plus some kills to boot.
It might not be a huge gold lead for the moment, but as I said, it is the kind of relevant spikes. If we have a look at this replay here, and again, just so much use up before this fight even begins that you don't have any options afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, you have no ults available at all for Vitality. Comp still has his, Trymbi still has the ultimate as well, so I don't know why you're trying to contest this. If Bo's looking for a steal, fantastic, Bo can kind of be there, but it looked like a bit of a mixed call. Some people wanted to fight, others were backing away, and Koi capitalized on that beautifully.
We do finally have first mythics coming out pretty much across the board here for the side of Vitality. They've got the Riftmaker here for Photon, and of course the Radiant Virtue for Bo, so he's going to be continually just stacking up all that HP that he loves to get. Cole's finished off for both AD carries, so they're going to be on a nice little power spike there, but the extra kill coming out and the extra little bit of CS, as you can see there for Comp, is putting him a nice little half item or so ahead. So when it comes to item completions, especially as we start to look towards these dragons stacking, it is going to be Comp who's just a little bit ahead of Neon.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how Koi want to try and keep playing this though, because from what I've seen from them as of late is they'll try and use the fact that they have these leads to get a push on side, say with Larssen up here, and immediately try and collapse on whoever ends up answering for that. But with Neon having great wave clear and Comp just taking a little bit more time to clear out these waves, it does give the opportunity for Vitality to kind of answer these pushes as you see right now.
With knowing that the Gwen is just stronger right now than the Cassante, Vitality will put themselves in a good side lane matchup. As we can see, Neon just trying to soak up the damage coming out here from Comp, and still have plates for another couple of seconds. They won't be taken, they should be taken down right now. So right now we are going to be waiting to see what the next real explosive move is going to be. 30 seconds to the Rift Herald, 3 minutes to the next dragon, and you would imagine that Vitality, they don't want to give over Rift Herald and all of the dragons, so they're going to want to try and maybe force the issue a little bit more around that Baron pit.
And I think this is the really funny part, is that although Vitality fought for second Drake, they've been one of the teams that are more willing to forego fighting a third dragon, instead wanting to get extra opportunities and objectives on the rest of the map, like towers and that. But at the moment, it feels like they kind of have to fight because they don't really have position on the map right now to look for, you know, top tier 2 or look for big wins anywhere else. So we'll move over towards the Rift Herald now with that push in mid, but you look at Koi, they're collapsing.
They are looking to collapse. They've got the Cassante coming up as well. Gwen is over by the banana bush, as Vitality want to really make this one happen. This Rift Herald a little bit more health on him, so very hard to hear. You can see Photon with that level 11 will have the 2 levels in the needlework. Should be able to smash through these health bars. All summoners available pretty much. You are missing though a flash on Malrang. Here we go. Rift Herald down to about 1700. Here we go. I'm going to try to see Malrang try and go for a little bit of a steal. It's secured by Bo. As if fight can really ensue, you've got the Gwen on the backside, but Comp is just doing so much. He finally gets a little bit of damage thrown onto him, but look at him, just lasering people down. They can't prioritize him. They can't keep the damage to stick, and Comp just shreds through Vitality.
Comp gonna flash forward, gets himself a third, and Koi are coming alive over the course of this weekend. Fantastic stuff from the bot lane.
Really, really well played, and Comp pick himself up 3 kills. We did see Cassante trading off his life with Neon in the top lane, but at the end of it all, yes, you did lose the Rift Herald, but you gained so much gold from that fight.
And this was just really well played by Koi. They do a great job of just keeping Comp in a safe little pocket that he can operate in. So Bo forced up onto the top side. Perkz also forced at the back of this fight, and they're just abusing the fact that they're able to push their way in here, get Bo down. And I want to keep your eyes on Szygenda here. Always keeping Photon off of Comp, making sure that he actually can't get on towards the key carry. Comp's fine with the Immortal Shield Bow and the healing coming through from Trymbi to deal with just Perkz realistically. And then they just follow up, and I mean the confidence here. Flash forward to finish off Perkz as well. That's so much gold that has gone into the AD carry of Koi.
Yeah, 4-2 in that trade, and like you mentioned, the healing of Trymbi and the Soraka, but also the shielding from Larssen and that passive little bit of extra armor and magic resistance you get when the ball's on top of you. So little things like that are kind of saying, Koi said, look, very obviously, we know Comp is our carry, and they're playing around it beautifully. And
want to see if they're going to play around to the next dragon, but Vitality are saying, look, we're not even going to attempt this. We're going to immediately move up towards this top side, throw down the Rift Herald, and try and create some pressure there. But Koi reading this, they're not actually moving down towards the dragon, they're not overcommitting. So yes, you get a Rift Herald charge, but that's kind of your one opportunity to create pressure on the map. And now Koi can move back down towards this dragon, and even look at where the Cassante is. Cassante's in a fantastic spot now to look for flanks, look for good positions for the all-out, and just make it so hard for Vitality to contest this next dragon.
There's a Chem Soul, so hasn't been the most highly prioritized. I feel like Vitality are going to just say, yeah, well, we're happy with this. Perkz going to get some gold on top side. But look at the gold difference there. The next closest person is Photon, and he's still 3,000 gold behind. So if Comp dies, it's a big issue for Koi. But if he doesn't, Vitality are going to have a massive issue trying to get rid of him.
Yeah, it looks like Vitality just don't even want to fight him. Perkz going to go for that top tier 2. That's kind of what we're talking about, is like Vitality are one of the teams willing to sacrifice these later Drakes, but it does come back to bite them at times where they have end up giving over souls and that kind of thing. So I think for Vitality, big question now is how do you try and wrangle this one back, because Koi are not slowing down. Even Leandri's Torment now completed for Larssen. You're going to have that Seraph's Embrace coming through fairly soon, and once you get to that stage, these teams become so damn strong. The team body from Koi becomes really hard to deal with.
Got Bo trying to see if he can maybe make something work in this bot side. Remember, it is still a ghost TP on the Cassante, so Szygenda needs to be a little bit more wary that if he gets locked up, he will continually get locked up and not really much else places for him to go. But with Perkz coming down here as well, it feels like they're trying to hard force this one here on a good rotation, but it is still a Cassante, still very tanky. Looks like they're going to go straight forward. They're going to try and burn it on top of him. He does still have the ghost, finally pops it there. There's the needlework coming out. They even have Kaiser here just for a little bit of extra support, but it's still Cassante. He's still very, very tanky with that Iceborne Gauntlet, and he's just not, or sorry, yes, Iceborne Gauntlet, and he's just not going to go down. Yeah,
I mean, it looks like Koi are just going to trade this for a mid lane turret as well. It's like, look.
Oh, Neon, he does not get away. He flashes over the wall, but I don't think he's really going to be able to try and fight this one. But with Kaiser on the backside, he does have a little bit of extra support. Perkz coming around. Maybe they want to try and catch somebody out, but you've lost your 2 summoners now on your AD carry. That is a very vulnerable Sivir coming into the next fight.
I mean, nice job from Perkz, though, to move across, clear out the wave, so you actually don't get the answer from Koi on towards the mid lane tower. Because they went for the pick, they can't actually go for the play on towards the mid lane turret, but Larssen will still answer with the top lane. So, again, towers are just trading back and forth, and now a Baron about to spawn when we're already looking down at a soul for Koi as well. Koi still the ones in control here.
I mean, look at the goal difference between the AD carries right now. 3.4k. Between the Zeri and the Sivir. Neon has just not been able to get himself rolling right now, and it feels like he's just not really going to be the same relevance as Comp at the same time, so it's just going to be always that weird power trough for the side of Vitality when they're trying to go for these fights.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact is you're going to get the Infinity Edge coming through from Comp, Navori, Quick Blades, going to be finished soon for Neon, but being almost a full item behind is just not going to be where you need this Sivir to be right now. Perkz has been doing a relatively good job. You can see has that advantage, as does Photon, but right now, can they actually get on towards Comp is the big question, and you're looking at like a miracle play from Bo to close the distance onto Comp without the Mikhail's Crucible completed for Trymbi just yet. That could maybe be it, but as soon as that is completed, there's very little hope to try and shut down Comp.
Yeah, it does feel like once you get the Mikhail's, it's going to be, you're needing multiple forms of CC to try and take him out, and maybe even a little bit more luck as well. But Baron on the table, and you can see both teams now kind of hovering towards this side of the map. It is only just spawned, it's only a baby Baron, but you want to gain control as well, because with the AD carries you have on your team, and honestly just the compositions you've built, both these teams, if left alone for a couple of seconds, can melt through this objective.
Yeah, I think Vitality right now, though, are doing a really good job of actually playing the map. Like, they're consistently getting to these waves force, pushing them in, and even though Koi are the ones in control, technically, they might find themselves in a lot of hurt.
Ooh, Malrang does back himself away, rush the Radiant Virtue rather than the Black Cleaver, which we have been seeing all weekend, so justifying that he needs to be a little bit tankier than doing the damage. He's pretty confident in Comp to be able to do that for his team for the moment, and yeah, just again, more and more control around this Baron pit for Vitality.
Yeah, and the fact that Vitality are just kind of abusing that Larssen isn't able to contest these waves as easily as someone like Perkz. Larssen doesn't want to be caught out by Bo, doesn't want to be caught out by Photon. Even Szygenda in a 1v1 does lose out to Photon. So Vitality at the moment have been doing a good job of getting their side lanes in order, forcing Koi to try and answer to that, and buying time now for Neon to start to try and farm up towards the second item, but also getting pressure on towers, getting some advantages there, and that's why the gold lead sitting very, very close. A lot of that coming from the solo laners on Vitality.
There's a Phantom Dancer difference between the AD carries right now as we see Vitality move up towards this. And Dagda, I'm gonna be real with you. It's been slow. It has been a tick the box, dot your I's, cross your T's kind of game, but now
ask and you shall receive.
No, it's a cast or curse. It works every time. 50% of the time, it works all the time. That's how that works. But you've got this one here, and this is going to be Bo and Kaiser kind of going for this one here. Trymbi and Malrang are in the vicinity. They finally have Neon to try and maybe make this one work. Cassante with TP would mean that as soon as they get vision on top of where this is going to be, Koi should be able to try and answer this. Trymbi finally walks up. Now they know what's going on. And the TP's coming in. It looks like Vitality are going to fully commit to this.
I mean, you've only got the vision of the wall. They need to stop Malrang getting into the pit.
Here we go. They're going to stop him right now, and they secure it. Vitality are not willing to take a 5v5, so they take away the big purple worm. But now they need to get these Baron buffs out. Bo using the terrain to his advantage and those empowered plants to make sure he can keep himself safe. Really heads up play from Vitality.
Vitality need to reset though. Dragon Soul in 8 seconds. They have the resets. Can they get back out to the pit? Koi taking a quick pit stop seat if they can get the mid lane turret. But yeah, I mean, Vitality won't get here in time. Well, I mean, the comp moves over, but this is just them trading Baron for Soul. They knew that they weren't going to be able to try and get the Soul. Yeah,
they're saying, look, we're happy to let this stall out the game. The Soul isn't the biggest priority on our side, so get the Baron, get themselves back onto the map to try and push this one around. And yeah, that's Dragon Soul. It's going to be Chemtech Soul over to Koi. And it's been a permanent buff versus a temporary buff. It can be a little bit skewy in terms of which one is worth.
Yeah, I mean, Chemtech Dragon with something like a Soraka, though, just feels so incredibly strong. So this is definitely Vitality now up against the wall and a long climb ahead of them that is certainly uphill. At least they will get the Baron and can start to try and get these waves in order, but in a straight up team fight, Koi will massively have these advantages, and at least at the moment Koi can't really use that to play for Baron or anything like that. But when you see this 5 minutes tick along and Elder's up, Baron's up at the round about the same time, that's when you're going to have issues now for Vitality.
It's an uphill battle. But no one said it was endless, and you can definitely make it here as Vitality. They've actually taken themselves a tiny bit of a goal lead. It doesn't really make a big difference right now, because again, I still look at that Sivir Zeri and the goal difference between the two of them. But does stall out that game a little bit more, and you can see with Bo as well, picking up that Thorn Mail, recognizing that the only real threat is going to be Calm.
Yeah. Really interesting to see Koi giving the red buff over to Trymbi, prioritizing the health regeneration on towards something like Soraka rather than actually getting the slow one towards Comp. But I mean, it does help out quite substantially, especially if you do want to be tossing at these heals a lot. Should do a good chunk of health extra for this squad. Larssen though does need to be careful here. Bo again, just the fact that Vitality have these advantages in their solo lanes, using the map, playing it well, trying to make sure they can keep Koi locked in their own base right now.
Still about a full item, well, about a half an item now between the AD carries, but Perkz has been doing some significant poke now with his Muramana being fully stacked up. You do, of course, have the lifeline passive here for Larssen with the Seraph, so both tiers doing exactly what they need to do. And my eyes in the next fight, if we do get a 5v5, is going to be on Photon. Photon is the backline diver that is going to be able to catch out Comp. If Comp can survive that initial burst and still maintain the damage over the fight, that could be the big difference.
I think it's one of the downsides of having a short-range AD carry against something like a Gwen is just how well she can use the Shroud. If she just plonks herself in front of Zeri and goes, you can't pass, well then there's very little that Comp can really do because he can't damage Photon. Photon has a lot of damage he can hit in return, so you do have to be very careful, especially if you're someone like Malrang. When you go aggressive, can't follow up, but I think Szygenda has been playing these fights really, really well, where he's been on Mark Photon duty. I'm just going to make sure that you don't get towards Comp, and every time you attempt to, I'm knocking you out of the way so Comp can have those angles of attack.
Yeah, standard man-to-man coverage, you know? You get that, you get your man, you don't let him do what he wants to do, and it has so far been working for Koi, but I will say, yes, they did get the Dragon Soul, but that does open up a possibility for an Elder, the game-ending buff, and if you're flipping that, that's not really what you want to be trying to do. It's great if you get it, not so great if you lose it.
Yeah, you say that, but Vitality had 4 Elder Dragons in their last series, and so
you know what?
They're one of their games. So I mean, the game ender.
You're right. It is the game ender, depending on what you have. But I feel like with these 2 AD carries on either side, I feel like whichever one is going to be able to get the Elder is going to do significantly more damage than the other. But we'll wait and see. It's going to be a fair bit of time before we really get that 2 more minutes. And honestly, I don't really see anything happening before then. This is just going to be both teams ping-ponging waves, looking to get up to that critical mass.
Yeah, I think the big one for Vitality is the fact that, again, they have been controlling the map. So with Jayce now on the top side, he gets to push in. When you have Photon on the spot side, he can push in as well. You establish vision on the spot side, and it then becomes very, very difficult if you're coming out of your base as Koi to actually find routes of attack through, because if all that vision is covered, you've then got to run in towards Bo, run in towards all this damage, and in short corridors like that, Neon is going to get a ton of those boomerang damage off, even Photon as well with that ultimate. So for Koi, it's about trying to play this smart. Try and push out these side lanes, group mid, push out mid wave, so you can actually find an entrance into River in these like 2 minutes time and a minute 20 for when Baron's up, and not allowing Vitality to just establish themselves in your jungle.
Fair bit of gold there for Sivir in her back pocket. You can see she's just trying to get enough for the Bloodthirster. I think it's about 1,600, maybe 1,500 away. So we'll see what they end up kind of wanting to go for. But again, nothing really to be happening. But Baron in a minute, and this is where we start to see the dance, the setup, if you will, for both of these sides to try and make sure they can confirm control over this river.
And this is what we were just talking about, right? Koi gets control of mid wave, immediately moves into river to prevent Vitality from just setting up through side lanes and getting that vision. You can see just one blue ward in behind them, where maybe Photon wants to look for a TP, but honestly, I think at this stage, it's a case of, again, Vitality, you're going to be forced to face check Koi, you're going to be forced to take this fight, and Koi are, despite having a slight gold deficit, highly favored with the buff and the fact that Comp should have another item completed off of this reset.
I will say, Photon is level 16 and a death cap, so he will shred if given a thing. But the TP's coming in. Vitality want to try and take out Larssen before this fight can really begin. He's going to get a fair chunk onto him. He shockwaves to try and save himself some time. Ooh, does nice little sidestep to keep himself there, but a flash forward by Bo does knock him up, and he gets shut down. Bo picks up that kill. This is smart from Vitality. They know they can take a 5v4 around the Baron pit, but they don't need to do it right now. They can still look for poke damage. Cassante should be coming in and should be tanky enough to walk away. But now 4v5, you're feeling good, but there is still a TP on Larssen. They need to take this quick.
Yeah, I mean, Larssen's just not going to be up for 30 seconds now. They should be able to get this reset and go for the Elder Dragon fight as well. Trymbi already taken relatively low. Photon still has ult as well. Keep your eyes on the Gwen.
Keep your eyes on the Gwen. Malrang on the top side. The Gwen goes in on top. But Malrang lost half his HP, and now the Needlework's coming in. Trymbi's already very low as well. The full fight with the Gwen is dead. Now you're looking at the Sivir's Comp moves forward fearlessly. Neon finally takes a kill on the Trymbi, but you're going to see if you can make this fight work. Double kill for the Zeri. It's so damn close, but you got to remember that was a 5v4 in favor of Vitality.
I mean, Neon's AoE was doing work, but it's just not enough with just the 3 items. And now Koi feeling confident to move over towards this. Malrang is still alive, and it looks like we're going to get a trade again. It'll be the Elder Dragon buff for the Baron buff, but in a situation where you can keep these Baron buff alive, it becomes very hard for Koi to push against it and try and use this Elder Dragon.
Elder does get picked up. A couple more seconds and you would imagine this Baron should be secured. Larssen's walking over, and yes, there's the Baron buff finally going over. So you can see the damage dealt right there. It is just the solo laners versus the bot lane. And honestly, Comp look fantastic, but the big thing now is that what can you do with this Elder? Like you said, Baron's going to slow it down.
Yeah, and I like the idea here from Photon, right? Go over, try and burst out Malrang, but can't actually get into a position with Trymbi consistently healing Malrang here to actually take down the jungler. It's so much healing that's coming through, even with the Radiant Virtue, with Trymbi as well. So nice idea, but just not enough. And now Neon has to try and carry this fight, but you can see he's getting a lot of pressure from Szygenda. Comp is in a much better position where he's free firing the whole time, and again, just having significantly more gold on this AD carry, plus the extra advantages you get when you're below 50% health, means that Comp is actually doing a ton of work on that low health bar.
And a hell of a lot was burned across the summoner bar because everything needed to be used.
I mean, the big one now as well, coming into these next fights, is QSS complete onto Quartz Comp. He doesn't need the Michaelis. That means you've still got it for Larssen, but Vitality trying to push with the Baron buff. Do you need to be careful as Elder is still available?
Very, very risky, and QSS and a full item ahead. You can see the Zeri is just monstrous right now, but Vitality have a couple of tricks up their sleeves. Remember, the fact that they honestly even were able to kind of trade so evenly was because they caught out Larssen. They were able to take the Orianna out of the picture and then force a fight a little bit more on their terms.
But this is why it's been so hard to kill Vitality. It's so difficult to take this team down, and it's exactly what you expect when you have the #1 team from the regular split against the champions from summer 2022, but Malrang may not want to be here.
He doesn't want to be there, but he still has Elder, so he is still a force to be reckoned with. So with the rest of Koi moving down towards that bot side, you would imagine not really the fight you want to be going for at the moment. Couple more seconds. You've got pretty much like it's like 4/5 of the dragon gone, so you'll lose this outer turret. You're not going to lose any inhibitors, and it is going to be a pretty easy defense now for Vitality, and the game goes on, Dagda.
I mean, look, I said it. This is where we get to see multiple Elders like we saw the last time with Bo. Starting to step forward.
Yeah, he knows that the Elder's going to be going off very, very soon as they try and find it. Oh my god, they've got the Cassante down. He's already gone into stasis to keep himself alive. Bo still taking down with a little bit of the Elder, but now Photon tries to get in with the Needlework. They're moving forward. Larssen very low, but a great shockwave stops the support. No cavalry for you. Perkz trying to do the damage on the backside, but Comp is so healthy. Comp is just massive in these fights, and Koi may look for the end of bot.
Trymbi's doing a ton of work. Malrang getting the pick on towards Neon as well. And now, as you say, a wave is here. Koi, they want to take game one.
They want to take game one. They don't want to wait for the next spawns of Baron or Elder. You still have some decent wave clear though with Perkz. So you got to be very, very careful. He will do significant damage, and there's still a Baron buff ticking up. So hard to make this one stick. Here we go. They're going to try and make this one on top of the carries, but with Bo moving in to try and deal with the minions, he will fall, but he did his job. Do they wait for the next wave? They've got a couple more seconds till the Sivir and the Gwen respawn, and they're going for a reset for a TP in.
I mean, there's the TP. Szygenda just trying to keep the wave alive. Perkz sidestep.
He sidesteps. Malrang goes golden. Nexus turret number 1 falls. It looks like Koi have found themselves an opportunity. All they needed was one fight. Kaiser goes in, but immediately he cannot do anything about it. They don't even care about the Lulu. They've dealt with it. They don't need to move forward with it, and they can take down the Nexus.
Perkz tried to hold on, but right now Koi are looking too strong. A fantastic game from the Koi bot lane, taking over in the early stages and just not relenting.
It just felt like they had control over bot side the whole time. Comp became such a monster then into those mid-game fights that Vitality had to be a bit more creative and not take the 5v5s, but Koi just took it in their stride.
And this is where you can kind of see why bot lane is so important in this current meta. The fact that you're able to get an entire Oisin ahead for Comp. And then even when you got Photon, who looks absolutely fantastic, have the Rabbit on death cap complete, he just doesn't have the damage that can compare to Comp in those fights.
And I mean, we talked about the AD carry bans and how much of a priority, even over the last few days, bot lane has been. It's kind of almost, you know, doubled in terms of priority. They need to figure out how to kind of make this work, because Vitality, they're all of a sudden on the back foot.
Yeah, and I think this is where you got to go, okay, we got to come back in and go, right, we want a little bit more control over the bot side. The Sivir did come through, the Lulu to try and take it away from the Zeri, but honestly, you could see the difference. The Sivir just couldn't match up.
No, we're going to send it back over to the Analyst desk to break down that first Koi win.
Thank you very much, guys. Welcome back to the desk here. Koi takes the first one. And here, guys, I would like to talk about the draft as first. If we can put it here, because we saw two different directions from both Team GB.
Yeah, also just a bit different drafts from what we've been used to. We've been seeing a lot of the Playmaker. We finally got some of that LCK scaling to come through as well. And yeah, I was quite curious to see that the fact that they opted for the Soraka again to come through with comp actually on Zeri, and I think it looked really good. I was a bit confused about the VI into Sivir initially, but they really made it work.
Yeah, I think especially the bot lane in this game made a real big difference. Taking tower 2v2 in 8 minutes seems like something that probably shouldn't happen. I was surprised to see Bo not interfering with that lane. I saw that when he was on Krugs, he could have easily stepped in on that lane and made a difference. And even later on, trying to stop the plates from falling, it felt like they just kind of sacked that whole side of the map and let comp get really strong in this game.
But actually, initially as well, I felt confident in Vitality's draft. I really like when I see Photon on the Gwen, specifically into the K'Sante. I was very surprised to see blind pick K'Sante when the Gwen was up, specifically because we see that Larssen just goes for last pick Orianna anyway, and I felt like if you're going to do that, you might as well fourth pick it and then give like Szygenda more leeway. Not so he wins the matchup, but just so Vitality doesn't have a winning matchup on their best performing member.
Yeah, and we've been waiting to see what teams could draft on the right side, and I actually like the approach from Koi here. Let's roll back and talk about the early game at first, because we had a bot focus on Koi's side, but a top focus on Vitality's side.
Yeah, and I think the bot focus, we were quite surprised how that went, but Bo didn't really want much of that. He was up towards that top side, and once again, I think it makes sense. You see the Gwen on top side, it's easy to play for, easy to proc the Sejuani passive, and you even see Kaiser coming up here, because quite frankly, there wasn't much for him to play on the bot side.
No, I think especially as well when he lost his flash on the first mid gank that he had, Bo was kind of stuck in a place where he just had to wait to make plays, and then during that waiting period was when Koi took the bot tower, so maybe the approach of going for the mid gank in the first place was the issue, but I think he did the correct judgment to skip the bot lane after having no flash, since that could be really dangerous if he gets counter ganked.
And I think it's really interesting just seeing how the different strengths of the two teams played out, because you could clearly see Vitality playing for that top side, while Koi's top side is kind of falling apart, and Koi themselves playing for the bot side, and Vitality's bot lane completely falling apart, being down that many plates with just isolated 2v2 matchup, and then Comp and Trymbi getting the turret by themselves. That's honestly unreal.
And this is what makes sense actually in the later stages of the game, when we see objective control and fights for Herald especially, and Christy has a telestrator ready for us.
Take a look at this Herald fight that Koi were able to take and then get a big advantage in the team fight coming off, and how Vitality were trying to set up for this fight, which at the start you can see there's Prio up in top lane and in mid lane as well for Koi, which is why they're trying to go ahead and set up for the Herald that's just going to be spawning up. Crazy spam pings as they come on through this one. But the important thing Vitality are trying to find is against the Soraka on the enemy team, Photon is looking for some kind of flank angle to create pressure against that Soraka pick coming in on the back line. So as Photon comes over into this bush right here, you're actually going to notice that Koi try to place down a ward, and now Photon has to wait over in this corner behind the wall. And what he's trying to wait for is for Koi to actually walk forward and initiate onto Vitality. Vitality would love to have Koi come into them, Photon get into the flank and cause them some chaos. But in order for that to work, the fight kind of needs to break out there. That's like the line of scrimmage needs to be, so Photon can quickly go from out of vision into vision and then onto the enemy backline. But what ends up happening is Vitality or Koi don't initially take the bait, right? They're so tanky with their frontline double tanks plus Orianna shield plus the Soraka heals that Vitality sort of waddle around in the backlines. They get a little bit split up, and Photon still doesn't have a great angle to get into the fight. Eventually he decides to show himself, but at this point it's still very hard for him to enter in. Bo gets exploded very early on, and as Photon does eventually get into the fight, he's in no position to actually damage Perkz and do anything on that side. And because the front line of Koi I think is so strong, it makes it really hard for Vitality to sort of stand their ground and make the fight happen without an effective flank coming in from Photon. Vitality also couldn't really pull off of the Herald without feeling really bad about their life, because if they pulled off and ran into their topside jungle, for example, well, there was a mid wave that was going to get pushed in right against them, so back sort of against the wall, they decided to go for the fight, and it hurt them a lot, losing so many members and eventually the game.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's been a difficult game for Photon trying to flank and find opportunities for Vitality, but I want to focus on Koi here, and especially on their bot lane, because Rekkles, we've been talking about how the bot lane for Koi last year was one of the central points and what got them success, and how they couldn't find this type of success this year because bot lane got better. But here, to me, with Comp and Trymbi, this was classic Koi, and this is what we wanted to see from them.
Yeah, it very much reminded me about them last year. I think they had one Kalista Soraka game earlier in the split, which was quite similar to this one. And to me, this is what made Koi be, well, I guess Rogue last year. This was their strongest part. So if they can keep putting emphasis on this and keep getting good drafts for their bot lane, I think this is their biggest chance of winning.
For sure, but I also think like that Herald fight that we just saw Vitality that Ender broke down, I think they should have never taken it. I think that when you play into a Zeri that already has mythic advantage on the Sivir, you had Moonstone on Soraka, I just think there's no way you ever win a 5v5. I thought they should have played better towards Photon, instead they opted in for the 5v5s, and that really gave Comp and Trymbi that lead as well, where they're allowed to take over the game. So big props for Koi for really accelerating through their bot lane, and a little bit of flag towards Vitality, who should have done better.
Absolutely, and once again, finding a win on red side, which is not something we saw at all yesterday. And this is what leads us to the second game where Vitality chose actually red side. So, GB, what can we expect from Vitality
honestly, I don't think blue side is broken. I don't know about you specifically, but I feel like it's very team conditional at the moment. And if they feel like getting your bot lane already secured on 1-2 in terms of the Enchanter bot lane, or having support on 3 and then banning out the Soraka if you want to pick Lulu, maybe that's the approach. I don't know if you have any thoughts towards this.
Probably support counter pick for the next game, I would say, for Vitality. I think the Soraka had way too much power in this one, created the 2v2 lead. Then sure, they choose some bad fights where they could have just cross-map instead and maybe let Photon carry, but I think, yeah, the bot lane was an issue, so I would put emphasis on getting a good draft for them.
We'll see if they adjust the approach here in Game 2. That's all for us on this side of the desk, but we will be right back after the break for the second game of this best of 3. Stay tuned.
Okay, I'll walk into them. Can they kill me? I doubt.
Actually, be careful,
Oh.
sure.
No, I don't think they can kill me yet.
Okay.
Cloud.
Okay.
Guys, take 1 minute.
They can't prioritize him. They can't keep the damage to stick. And Comp just shreds through Vitality. Taking down with a little bit the Elder, but now Photon tries to get in with the needlework. They're moving forward. Larssen very low, but a great shockwave stops the support. No cavalry for you. Perkz trying to do the damage on the backside. But Comp is so healthy. Comp is just massive in these fights. And Koi